Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This is our time to hold the line.
BC's COVID-19 battle.
It's our flattening. It's our curve. This is our fight in British Columbia.
With more deaths and dozens of new cases, a renewed call for you to continue the fight. Also,
the whole team has rallied around this cause and this effort.
Stepping up to keep frontline BC healthcare workers safe. And
I was holding his hand when he breathed his last breath.
The challenges of saying goodbye.
We're going to try to stay connected
to victims of the COVID crisis.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. The deadly COVID-19 virus has killed 4 more people in our province, and there are 53 new positive cases being reported tonight, bringing BC's total close to 1,200. BC is also responding tonight strongly to a directive from U.S. President Donald Trump. He has told an American manufacturer to stop exporting N95 masks to Canada. Our Tanya Fletcher is here live this evening. So Tanya, how is our province's health minister reacting to that?
Yeah, Mike, Adrian Dix called the news disappointing but not surprising. He says those actions are wrong and don't make sense for Canadians or Americans. Now, remember, there are pulp and paper mills on Vancouver Island that provide material to the U.S. to make these kinds of critical supplies like masks and gowns too. But Dix doesn't believe we should respond with retaliation because he says this is a global effort.
Rather than contributing and making the problem worse and going tit for tat, we should work together for a result that will benefit all of us. Part of the reason we have challenges in British Columbia is because there were challenges in Washington State, that COVID-19 doesn't know borders, and we want our American friends to do well. We want their response to COVID-19 to be effective.
And now Dix is also clearly pushing Ottawa to do more to monitor and enforce the Federal Quarantine Act for travelers returning on repatriation flights. We see that he says more screening and blatant messaging needs to happen, not only on arrival at YVR, but also at the departure level in other countries so that passengers know the 14-day isolation rule even before they land.
We need to actively follow up with cases. We need access to the full information when people come to Canada. The BC health system needs that access to full information from the Government of Canada. We need individuals where necessary to support by dropping off food so that when people come to airports, they don't go past and go to Save-On. They don't go to Safeway. They don't go to Costco. They go home and they stay home.
And Tanya, Dr. Bonnie Henry has also asked why we're not seeing people being ticketed in BC for disobeying her physical distancing orders.
That's right. Dr. Henry says there's really no evidence right now to show that type of enforcement is necessarily effective. She says it's challenging for bylaw officers to police those actions, and she's defending BC's strategy, calling it a reasonable approach.
I am much more concerned about those parties, those host parties, the having people over and mixing, and then them going off with others and mixing. So that's when we get these little chains of transmission, is when you're spending some time with this group of people, but some of them are with another group of people. And those are the things that transmit this virus.
And just on one more note, there have been complaints that healthcare workers can't find a spot at the parking lots because those lots are full now that it's free. Some drivers have been taking advantage and parking there, then hopping on the bus or the SkyTrain. Well, Dick says they are aware, but he added that that kind of misuse is unacceptable, and they'll try to find a way to start enforcing that. Mike?
All right, Tanya Fletcher reporting live tonight. Thanks. Well, with plenty of talk about a shortage of protective equipment, some good news locally tonight. Turns out several Vancouver area manufacturers are about to deliver thousands of reusable medical gowns for frontline medical health workers. As Eric Rankin of our Impact team reports, they are gowns designed and produced right here in BC.
Mustang Survival is now churning out survival gear of a different kind. Its entire Burnaby factory retooled, switching from life jackets, survival suits, and other gear for the public, Coast Guard, and military to reusable, innovative medical gowns, coming to the rescue of local frontline health workers during the COVID crisis.
As soon as we heard that medical supplies were there were shortages in some of the gowns or other medical supplies, the moment we heard that, we expected to jump in and start helping out.
Vancouver Coastal Health asked for that help 2 weeks ago. The target to produce 5,000 gowns a week over the next 2 months, 90,000 in total, all below market rates.
It's very crazy. It's been a very busy last couple of weeks, to be honest with you, and everybody's pushing hard.
Mustang has partnered with other Lower Mainland companies, including outdoor clothing giant Arc'teryx and K-Bro, which launders medical gowns for hospitals, plus local fabric suppliers and commercial sewers, to test and produce a prototype isolation gown made from a waterproof fabric that can withstand repeated sterilization and reuse.
The main thing is we're trying to prevent water or any other sort of liquid penetration, and then it's got the added benefit of it's breathable, so they can stay comfortable and stay focused.
In addition to Mustang, Arc'teryx pledges its new U.S. factory will start gown production this weekend. Vancouver Coastal Health says it's grateful and wants to work with local businesses to find local solutions. Mustang says inquiries are now coming in from Toronto and the U.S. But what about manufacturers sharing secrets with local rivals?
Sometimes you need to sacrifice a little bit of that secrecy to move the ball forward. And then when this is all over, we'll create new secrets.
Next up for Mustang and its partners, the manufacture of surgical masks as they work to alleviate that shortage. Eric Rankin, CBC News, Burnaby.
Vancouver's downtown east side is the city's #1 priority at this point in the pandemic.
Across the country, people are being told to take physical distancing seriously. But in the downtown east side, it's not as easy as just asking. These cleaning, food, and income supports for peers are all critical steps to make sure we flatten the curve here as well.
New supports announced today for the city's most vulnerable include 2 weeks of daily cleaning at 21 SROs, expanded hygiene stations downtown, 2 weeks of meal delivery to about 1,100 SRO residents, and income support for peer workers. 1,400 ferry workers have been laid off as traffic is down about 80% because of COVID-19. BC Ferry says the layoffs are temporary but necessary due to the current situation. Several routes have been affected as well, including a temporary 60-day suspension of sailings between West Vancouver and Nanaimo that starts tomorrow and, as we said, will last for 2 months. North Vancouver's Sunshine Cabs has become the latest taxi company to close shop during the COVID-19 pandemic, laying off more than 100 employees. With physical distancing orders, the company says it was almost impossible to keep customers and drivers safe. Its manager says they've already lost about 25% of their drivers to ride-hailing services earlier this year. He says for those laid off, uncertain times lay ahead.
They have to apply for EI. They're not going to get their full wages. They've got bills to pay, and it's very troubling, great uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Companies like Yellow Cab are still in business, but with limited fleets. The province says taxis are considered an essential service. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic affects everyone, including children on the autism spectrum. Therapies for them have been put on hold. And there's another problem. As Belle Puri of CBC Vancouver's Impact Team reports, families are worried about funding that's potentially drying up.
Ow! Sorry. Daily routines for the Taylor children have gone out the window since the coronavirus hit BC.
Every little change now is creating quite the challenge in our house.
The two oldest, Emery and his sister Hadley, are on the autism spectrum. Their speech, language, and occupational therapy, counseling sessions, and respite all cancelled.
Our oldest, just a change of schedule has really shut him down. He's vocal a lot less. He's self-harming a lot more. And then for our middle child, her meltdowns are very emotional. She will cry constantly.
The fiscal year for government funding of therapies now on hold ends the last day of a child's birth month for both Taylor children. That's May 31st. Their parents want government assurances they won't lose $3,000 still left to spend.
It's as simple as saying, okay, what you have left right now isn't going to expire at the end of May. We're going to let you use it next year.
The group that advocates for autism families asked for funding rollovers 2 weeks ago.
We also are requesting that families be given much greater flexibility in how they spend that money. So, for example, they could spend it on more equipment, which they could order so that they could have that at home.
Right now, there's a 20% cap on how much funding families can spend on equipment. Justine Taylor says if she could redirect money, something as simple as a weighted blanket would help calm her children. But the government didn't address either of those issues in a teleconference with parents. There was no clarity if more than 20% of the monies could be spent on equipment, and they said nothing about rolling over the spending deadline. Taylor says the session left her in tears.
It feels like they're just ignoring our questions, and it feels like our kids are just falling through the cracks one more time.
Money that could be used at a later date to repair current setbacks, she fears will simply disappear. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's been a lot of attention given to ventilators over the past few weeks, but what are they and what do they actually do? Reporter Rafferty Baker has a respiratory therapist walk us through the intricacies of the ventilator.
As casualties from the COVID-19 pandemic mount, hospital resources like ventilators are in short supply. They're a life-saving part of treating severe cases. Here's what you need to know.
This is a ventilator right here, and it's a machine that helps people breathe by pushing air into their lungs. Some people get more moderate or severe symptoms, and they are not able to maintain that work of breathing. And so the ventilator can help people by taking over that work that's required to move air in and out of the lungs.
The coronavirus that causes the illness binds to receptors on cells in a person's airway and lungs. The World Health Organization estimates 80% of people with COVID-19 get better on their own without needing to be treated in hospital. But in severe cases, it's the respiratory system that will struggle to do its job oxygenating a patient's blood, which is where the ventilator comes in. Tanks of medical air and oxygen are mixed at precise levels and pushed down a tube. It goes through a unit that warms and humidifies the air, and then into the patient, through the tube that's tightly sealed in their airway. The lungs naturally spring back, pushing the air out through another tube. For COVID-19 patients, filters are added to contain the virus. The computer controls the flow and detects the patient's breathing.
We have people in the community that stay on ventilators for years or even decades, and they usually get a tracheostomy tube, so a hole in the neck with a tube there to make it more comfortable. A typical ICU stay would be about 5 to 10 days. One of the risks is with the breathing tube, which goes through the vocal cords and into the trachea to allow ventilation of the lungs. Anything that is invasive like that can allow bacteria to get in, and so people can get what's called a ventilator-associated pneumonia. So we can't ventilate with those. Thumbs down on that one. Those machines just provide one steady level of pressure, so they don't actually ventilate the lungs, they keep the upper airway open. Thumbs up on that one. It would be like comparing a sports car to your old clunky commuter car. They can for sure get the job done. Thumbs down, double thumbs down on that one. A ventilator is only set up to monitor one person, so that whole system would be seen to the ventilator as though it was one. So as long as somebody got some air, the system would work, and it wouldn't know that possibly multiple people were not getting any air.
Well, COVID-19 has upended some families' lives at the most difficult moment, the death of a loved one. Children are unable to visit dying parents and relatives even if they don't have the disease. Dan Burrett has the story of one family having to mourn their father from a distance after he died on Sunday.
Gustav Gus van den Hemel loved family, safety, and security. World War II in his native Indonesia left deep scars.
For 2 years, he was in a concentration camp living off of bread and water.
After years in the Netherlands, van den Hemel, wife Ivany, and their 5 children moved to Richmond in 1973.
Freedom, opportunity, all of those things is what Canada represented to our family.
6 years ago, Ivany and Gus moved into the Elam Village Long-Term Care Centre in Surrey. In late March, COVID-19 hit their home.
My dad developed a cough and a sore throat, and so they put him in isolation, which meant even though my mom was there, he could have no contact with her.
Gus tested negative for coronavirus, but soon developed breathing problems. Pneumonia was suspected. Son Martin was allowed to visit one last time in full protective gear.
I don't even know if my dad really recognized me, but I wanted to be there for my dad as he passed away, and I was holding his hand when he breathed his last breath.
Now the Vanden Hemmels must mourn their father and comfort their mother from a distance.
My mom, who has dementia, has been grieving on her own without any family around her. And this type of tragedy is going to be repeated countless times around the world.
While they all can't physically mourn together, the Vanden Hemmels say they're embracing technology to stay connected. Family in the Netherlands joined them via video for the cremation. The Catholic funeral will be broadcast online to family across the globe. Martin thinks his dad would approve.
He would probably say, "What, you guys are having to do this because of a disease and you guys are complaining about it? You've got technology to help you out. And you've got your immediate family in many cases, you know, your wife, potentially your young children, they're still with you, so you can still hug them."
As a family stays apart and still keeps connected to memories of their dad. Dan Burrett, CBC News, Surrey.
And among those needing help in this crisis, Indigenous elders. Members of the Nishka Nation are stepping up, organizing hampers for those most in need. Our Urban Indigenous Unit profiles their efforts.
Yes, it's very heartwarming when Nishkas receive gifts from another Nishka. And we've seen stories on Facebook on how heartfelt Nishka members are receiving this gift in this time of crisis especially.
We're providing care packages to our elders within our community. Here in Vancouver, we have over 900 homes and over 200 homes with elders. So we're providing them care packages during COVID.
So we have cleaning supplies in there. And not only that, you need your to make sure our members have food in their cupboards to keep them healthy during the day in case we have to encounter the deadly virus that's going around.
It means that they don't have to go out to the store right now amid this crisis, right? And so to hear the happiness, to see the happiness on our elders' faces is just amazing.
And meteorologist Brett Soderholm joins us now live from the Working From Home Weather Center. Not a bad evening out there, Brett.
Not a bad evening, a little bit on the chilly side, and there's definitely a bit of wind, which is making it feel a little cooler than it should be. And it has been a rather chilly week, wouldn't you say? As we move forward this weekend, I do want to show you what you can be expecting. If you're going to be in Metro Vancouver, take a look at what your forecast holds. I want to show you that for tonight, yes, there is still a slight risk for some showers or some wet flurries. This has been the dominant weather story for much of this week. Tomorrow, expect those flurries to be dissipating first thing in the morning. The afternoon is going to be getting up to about 10 degrees, and come Sunday, that's finally the day where our temperatures are going to get back to where they should be. So all that precipitation is really going to be a South Coast and Vancouver Island story throughout the overnight period. And as we get into Sunday, for the rest of the province, there's really only a little bit of snow to be dealing with into the Kootenays. But when it comes to a 5-day forecast here for Vancouver, I do want to mention, if you haven't been enjoying these kind of chillier temperatures, just wait until next week. We're going to see temperatures go above seasonal. We're going to be looking at lots of sunshine basically as soon as Monday rolls around, and those daytime highs are going to be anywhere between 13, 14, maybe even 15 degrees. So it's going to be a good one. Just wait until the weekend's over.
All right, we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Brett. Well, it's been a long road to recovery for Archie the sea lion after being found in a log boom with gunshot wounds and an arrow sticking out of his back this week. He was released back into the ocean.
Keep going. Yay.
He's been in the Vancouver Aquarium's care for months now, undergoing several major procedures to get him ready for his return. Aquarium staff say Archie will be tracked after his send-off at South Surrey's Crescent Beach so they can monitor his progress and help out if he gets into trouble. Archie back in the water. Fantastic to see that. All right, just a reminder, you can watch our newscast anytime, cbc.ca/BC. Anita Bath will be back with me on Monday at 6 o'clock for a full 1-hour local newscast right here. Coming up next, we join the National in progress.